So move quietly, move in understanding, and know that you're a leader.
You got. I just want to pray for the journey. Me being here is a big blessing.
Hello, beautiful people. This is your favorite guy, Raymond Eche Agbalanyo. Today, I welcome you to Assin Manso Slave River. If this is your first time watching me, please subscribe, like, and share.
My name is Kofi Amini. I am Kofi because I'm a male born on Friday. And in Ghana and everywhere in the world, Fridays are always the best.
No, it's lie.
No, that's true.
I don't agree with you.
I agree.
You guys are loving it in Ghana, you loving it. And when you have the resources to keep coming, I am sure you will. This is the answers that I always get whenever you visit the land. One man told me, Kofi, when I landed at the airport, that was the first time I saw myself as the majority. One lady also said, Kofi, when I got to the airport, I saw a policeman approaching. I got scared. But this policeman came to me and said, sis, welcome home. I felt so different. So I would love to come back over and over and over, and I love it. No, I love it. But when they were telling me they love it, I was just looking at them because I had never believed in whatever they are saying. Because I don't believe that any one of you is happy to be here. No. There's no happiness for you. The energies around you is energies of things. Maybe you have never realized it. I know you'll be wondering, who is this man? To be telling me I'm not enjoying and loving it, whilst I know I am. Maybe a question for me who saw this. Are you ready for the question? When you guys read in history that your own brothers and sisters from the African continent were among those group of people that sold your forebears into slavery, how did that make you feel? Not a good feeling.
Hateful.
I love that word. I love that word. Very strong word. Tell me yours. Disappointed. You see, you're right. You are the most diplomatic group I've met. Oh yes. Because whenever I ask these questions, you can't imagine the adjectives that your brothers and sisters use to describe their babes. Some even fall flat and they start crying because of the pains of knowing that my own people gave me out. Some even attack me personally for asking that question because they cannot contain that pain. But whenever I am done with my presentations, this group normally come back to me and they apologize for whatever they said to me. But I always tell them, you should never say sorry to me because I have never been in your shoes, so I wouldn't understand you better. But maybe if I have been in your shoes, I would have even done worse. So because of this, I have always remained at your side than the side of the continental Africans. You know why? Because there's no way you can tell me you love me and you are so ready to let me go. You see, whilst we were growing up in the African setting, our parents only taught us to love. One is coming from. So if this was what we were taught, then what went wrong? Is it because of greed or some selfish interest of some individuals? Today, this topic has become a very sensitive. We sold you, but we are also not ready to speak about it. But we are the same group of people that keeps calling you to come back home because you belong to us. Do you think that would work? That would never work. The only time that would work is for us, the continental Africans, to make sure that this topic is properly addressed. For me, Kofi, I lived all my life believing that the continental Africans like myself, my brothers in here, never suffered anything. After all, we sent you away. So in all my life, that was what I believed in, not until I came across a research that was conducted. And the findings of this research stated that the pains felt by our forebears, that same pains could be felt in us. So which means you and I shares a particular pain. But for me, Kofi, I did not know which pain that was. So I am back on a personal journey to understand that pain. Because if I'll be able to understand that pain, I would equally understand the pains of my brothers. So I locked myself in a room for days, praying and hoping to have clarity. Yes, I had so many clarities. But on this field, I have met 95% of us who are more religious. I have only met 5% spiritual. So sometimes very difficult for me to tell my spiritual energies to anyone. But my spiritual connection connected me to read a book. And the title of this book is The Transatlantic Slave Trade, Landmark, Legacies and Expectations by Professor J.E.K. Akwame. Now, in that book, the professor made a very interesting revelation about the trade. He stated that 1% of the indigenous Africans, 1% of us supported the trade. 99% of us fought against the trade. But today, the 99% of us, the body is very painful, but at least you know where you put it. You could always give it a good side and you give some of that out and you settle them. So if many of us are going for closure because of the pains of not knowing, then my question to you again, have you guys really thought about the 99% continental Africans? Those Africans that have their brothers and sisters in you, stolen and taken away from us, nobody brought to us with their bodies. For the 99% of us living on this continent, for us to have our closure. We have been through these pains of not knowing for over 400 years now. Families that you were stolen from have never known peace. I come from one family that many of our people were stolen. We know their names, but I've never met them. It has been over 400 years now. And we are also looking for our closure. So how do myself, my brothers in here, how do we also find our closure? The only time we find our closure is a day today. For you to have made it back. So you're coming home today. You are giving closure to millions of your ancestors who never even believed that there would ever be a day today that their children would ever represent this land. You're coming home today. You are giving peace to this land. Because once upon a time, the land was so confused that she couldn't even account for the number of her own children. And you're coming home. You are giving closure to myself and my brothers. So you see, your journey here today, it is a spiritual journey. You have never planned to be here. No. It has already been planned for you to be here. And that is why I keep telling you that the best you can do to yourself today is to unlearn before you learn. Because many of what you know are never restored. Never toured this land as a tourist. You're never a tourist. You are a local just like me. So tour this land as a local and do whatever the locals does. Whilst I was coming to work this morning, I came across a famous quote of Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. This man once stated that people without the knowledge of your past history, origin, and culture, you were just like a tree without roots. Now, the Emperor Haile Selassie also said that an awareness of our past is essential to the establishment of our personality and identity as Africans. So if all those groups are speaking about an African, the question is, who among us is an African? Because today, when you go to the West Indies, you have people that look exactly like you, like me, with the same complexion. But they see themselves more Jamaicans, more Guyanese, more Trinidad and Tobago, and you know those names than me. When you move to the South American countries, you still have same people that look like you, but prefer to be called Brazilians, Venezuelans, and the rest. But if you want to be more confused, you just go to where you are coming from the US of A. And you have people like us that prefer to be called Black Americans, but not African Americans. So the question is, then who among us is an African? That is why a famous reggae musician, in the person of Peter Tosh, said it so beautifully. He said, don't matter the nationality. As long as you are a black man or a black woman, you are an African. And Kwame Nkrumah said it so beautifully. Because today you and your brother share the same African DNA. It is in us. So Kwame Nkrumah said, not because you're born in Africa, that makes you an African. We are African because African is born in us. That is why for over 10,000 miles, you have traveled all the way from the States. As a public figure, you should be even scared to be walking freely. But your spirit and your intuition keeps telling you that no, there's some part of you that has been hidden. And you are in search of that part that has been hidden. Because your history is being crafted in a way that where the slave ship took you from has been taken out of from your history. And the only way you know about yourself is where the slave ship landed you from, and that becomes your origin. But you have grown to see all, and you tell yourself, no, I think there's more I need to learn. So you've come all the way to this land. My brothers in here are going to teach you a lot. I would add my voice. But the best teacher of this land is the old land. The land will have a way of speaking to you. You're going to go back there so proud of yourself that you'll be ready to share your story and tell people, hey, this is who I am. But immediately you go back to the States, this is the truth. You'll be targeted. Because they knew that when you come home, you're going to go back with the rich content of your story. And they will tell you that never tell your story the way you heard it here. And that is why your history is being termed as a critical racial theory. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, even said when you and I know about our own selves, it's going to create disunity and dislike. Do I care? I don't care. For me, I believe if I know myself, I'm going to rather be a better man. Why are they scared? Are they scared? They are. The legacies of your ancestors, if we are supposed to be written in our books, the world can never read it. So they have made our history as a white elephant. So when I visited Governor State University in the land of Chicago for a presentation, when I tell them the story, everyone in the room just sat quietly. They never knew about this. But the only justification that they had was they came to and said, Kofi, okay, if all that you are saying is true, but you sold your own people. That is the only propaganda that they have left. And I told them no. So when I came back home, I realized that that is a deficit. So I decided to tell the world the truth, the myth, and the lies about the slave trade. You see, before the coming of the Europeans to Africa, Africans lived in unison. We lived in peace, and we lived in love. Although there exist among us all spirit consumables, we have the good ones. We have the bad ones. We were never perfect as a people, but at least we were excellent. Now we find ourselves in an era in Africa called the acquisition era. That era in Africa was the era of great migration. Now I have had so many engagements with the diaspora. And you know what they tell me? They tell me, Kofi, our ancestors could have sacked the Portuguese from the land. Why did they have to allow the Portuguese to stay on this land? Because when they came in their little numbers. So we should have sacked them off. And I tell them, stop blaming them. Because the same mistake that our ancestors did is the same mistake that you are doing. Because the Portuguese capitalized on our strength, our inner strength. And you know what that was? Hospitality. Hospitality. To date, we love and love and love without thinking. Wherever there is love, you see us there. We are so clean and so pure. This is the same thing that caused us today. I'm not saying we should not love, bro. But all that I'm saying is when loving, let's observe the energies first. Our answer did not. They love freely. And that free loving has brought us here. And still, it's having an effect on us. Now, during the discourse of the slave trade, slave markets also played a role. Because the market was where the two devils met, the buyers and the sellers. Ghana had 63. Ghana had 63 of such markets. But do you know that 59 of this market was managed by the Europeans? But of all these markets, an historian, in the person of Professor Kosia Dumapeg, in a book entitled The History of the Indigenous Slavery in Ghana, from the 15th to the 19th century, she made mention that Ghana was having the largest market in West Africa, and Ghana was having the easiest market in West Africa. Even though Ghana was not the slave coast, Ghana was a good coast. But because Ghana had the forts and castles, Ghana was used as the exit point. So captives that came through Ghana were not only captured from Ghana, they were captured from everywhere in West Africa. So let's do some mathematics here. Imagine somebody has been captured from Mali, and that person has to walk from Mali.
Walk?
Yes, to Ghana. Do you know how many months that person has walked? How many of us said, oh, can even walk for a week, for any water? Some walk for 6 to 7 months per day. They were crossing countries on foot. They were not walking freely, they were in chasing shop. And you know something? Women and children were part of this crowd. The men were supposed to fight for the family. But the man could not fight because he was properly trained. The man saw someone molesting a wife. If you have the chance, you can even kill that person behind you. But you cannot do so. And you pretend not to see the pain. Women saw their kids die and everything. Many of us look at the torture, the physical torture on us. But I don't look at that. That is just time. Have you guys thought about the emotional and the psychological torture? It breaks us into pieces. Fathers cry even when fathers need not to shed tears. Not because of the pain, because of the emotional. Historians are even struggling today to give numbers of how many people died in Nigeria. When I visited the African American Museum in the US, they were even fighting with us. Some were even saying 70 million died in Nigeria. And I don't believe in that. I believe far more than 70 million died. But what can we say? That's what we can say. That's what we can do about that thing. But collectively, the best thing we can say is wherever they were killed and buried, may their souls rest. They landed here at the market. When they landed here at this market, the market goes all the way to the community. But the reason why this area has been confined is because this area has been identified to have been the slave cemetery within the slave market. So from the edge of the grass all the way to the river, we are walking or standing on the remains of our ancestors. That was how you were coming through the main gate. The gate looked very short, so almost all of you entered like this. Yes, unconsciously, you've already paid your respect to the land. When they landed here at this market, this was where they were properly fed. Broken bottles and sharp objects were used in shaving them. A device called a speculum oris was put into their mouth open their mouth, count their teeth to forecast their ages before they were made to walk the river in order for them to take their lives back. At the riverside, they went to their first ever auction and their first ever branding. Those that could not continue the journey are those that are waiting for you. And they have waited for you for over 500 years now. And I'm sure wherever they are today, they are so proud that you made this journey. And they are so excited to see you all that time. From Assin Manso, they took them to the dungeons. 38 miles to Cape Coast, 42 miles to Fort Amsterdam, just for them to await the slave ship. The dungeons was not built as a prison. It was built as a warehouse. And this warehouse was converted into a prison. So imagine the condition of the dungeon. There's no ventilation. Our ancestors ate and they drank in their fecal matters. Diarrhea in this century was the disease of the day. Whenever the diarrhea is coming, they use a rope to tie around the knot and they push it through their back door in order to stop this diarrhea from coming. Imagine at night how the dungeons look like. You have men shouting, women crying, infants wailing. I'm very surprised that whilst they were dying in the dungeons, nobody rescued them. And nobody even brought them out of the dungeons. I'm still surprised. Nobody heard of their pain. Nobody knew they were dying. I'm still surprised. You know why? Because right on top of the dungeons, do you know what was there? A church. And that church today is the Anglican church. So the question is, what kind of God was that church preaching? Were they preaching God? Certainly not. They were preaching religion. Something to make us feel inferior, just for them to feel superior. 35,000 slave ships perpetuated this crime on us. 35,000. So imagine the slave route on the Middle Passage. Every day there's traffic. Our ancestors stayed in the dungeons for 3 months before the slave ship arrived. Some call the slave ship, but I prefer to call them floating prisons. All right. And now is the time for your ancestors to be taken away to the new world. But before they could get onto the slave ship, there was a door that they all crossed. And you know the name of that door? The door of return. The door is self-explanatory. That door is simply telling you that when you cross me, you're never going to make it back. And if you are so stubborn like you, and you still insist in coming back, they'll still make sure you come back as confused as ever. Today, are you not back? You're back, right? Which tribe of Africa do you come from? You know?
Which what?
Tribe of Africa do you come from? You know? It is not your fault. This was well orchestrated at the door of no return. That was where they took away the most important part of us. Immediately they took it away from us, they won over us. And you know what that was? Our names. Look, with African names, you don't have a choice. You were given life assignment. Your name should connect you to your community, your destiny, and your plan. So even if I've never met these brothers and sisters of mine, immediately each of them mentions their names to me now, I'll be able to tell you where they are coming from. So if all those names have been taken away from you, don't miss that. How do you even know where you are coming from? A typical example is the movie The Roots. This man was reached to the point of death, just for him to do what? To denounce his name. Why? Because if that name is no longer on you, that is the end of you. But in the era of our ancestors, the pain that was meted on them was so much that they cannot bear. So they had to let go of their own names and acquire on themselves their slave names. But the day you and I acquired to ourselves our slave names, that was the day we became inferior. Because there's a saying that you cannot fight and win the person that named you. So if that saying is true, who named you? Is your name, or a name of the slave name? That is why when I get married to my sister and we give birth, we name our children. And we are the only ones that could write the biography of our own children. That is not for the past 100 years now. These Europeans have been writing our own story. Because in their minds, their names on us means they own us. Look, bro, The time has come. We need to detach ourselves from those names. And we also need to be able to tell our own story. Because if the lion, like us, does not have our own storyteller, the antes will always be glorified. The time has come for us to write our own story. But before that story needs to be told, there was a curse that was planted by the Europeans, and that curse is the door of no return. So that curse needs to be changed to the door of return, because words are very powerful. But the question is, how do you do that? That is why when you look back in the ancestral graveyard, you're going to see the mortal remains of our ancestors. Far from the left, her name is Madame Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, representing the US of A, representing the Americans. Madame Crystal was a young beautiful lady who was, she rather preferred to die than to become a slave. While she was in prison in Kingston, Jamaica, she was the first female who decided to starve herself to death in order to push for the abolishment of the slave trade. And you can't imagine the punishment that was meant on her, where she had her teeth all chiseled out. Nothing to protect free. 3 months, the pain was unbearable. She lost her life. And according to historians, when she was about to say goodbye, the only thing she said was, "Bring me back home someday." I am not sure she knew she was, but somehow, it remains has been brought back. In the middle is Samuel Carson, the paternal ancestor of a US of A war veteran, Sonny Carson. But the question is, why do I fight for a country that will not even allow me to bring in the same country again? So he resigned from the army and he became an activist, motivated by a scripture in Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 1 to 7. And the Bible said, "Would the dead bones ever have life?" Samuel Carson believes that the dead bones is our ancestors. So the question is, will our ancestors ever have life? According to him, yes, they will. But he doesn't know how they're going to have life. So on the 31st day of July 1998, the two remains of our ancestors re-entered our country through the infamous door of no return of the Cape Coast Dungeons. When they re-entered the door of no return, the door was changed to the door of return. And the door was made bigger, symbolically. And those of you that will be coming through that door will be more than those on the story. And ever since that day, that prophecy has come to pass. So which means the dead bone that was our ancestors are now living in us. Because Africans believe in reincarnation. So which means the dead bones take not die. Fast forward in 2019. It was a year of return celebration in Ghana. 1619, Virginia Jamestown, where the first documented slave ship landed. 2019 was Ghana. When you do the math, do you know how many years it is? 400 years. When you read the Bible, Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14, that prophecy is right there in the Bible. It said, "You be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years on the land that is not yours. But after that, the nation that enslaved you would I judge, and my people will come out with the greatest of substance." 2019 was the 400 years. It's the year of resetting. It's the year that the world needs to start all over again. Did that happen? It did. That was when the COVID came. Everything needs to start again. But when post-COVID, did we understand the prophecy? I don't know. That was when the Prime Minister of Barbados was coming back. She said, "I have seen the sun." So she excavated most big cemeteries from Newton Barbados. All the way from Barbados. And that's the third thing we see. Immediately after the burial, groups also petitioned that they also wanted to be buried here. So inside the graveyard has been given out. And today we have 576 ashes on that land. The trade was abolished in 1807. But not slavery. With slavery, I don't know the date because I don't believe that. Because today we have moved away from slavery in chains and shackles to mental slavery. And that's why Gavin and Bob Marley told us to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Because none other than ourselves can free us. We're going to make a short for forever. But before we get to the river, there's a plant. This plant in Africa saved many of our ancestors during the slave trade. Ironically, this same plant became a drink in the US of A. And this drink is loved by the black community. I don't know why you love this drink, but in here it was a plant that said that. Do you want to know the name of the drink? Should I tell you? No, I won't tell you. Orange juice and champagne.
Mimosa?
We never fought for our people, and we just let them take them away. No. When you look at our history, we fought so many and won so many. But we put them in our food. So in Africa, whatever you want to know about us, we don't write it, we put it in things that will always be remembered. So when you go to the northern region of our country, almost 93% of festivals that are celebrated is how they won over this evil. Some moved to the mountainous areas because they wanted to keep their people safe, and others stayed in the caves. Those that stayed in the caves were those that were mainly captured. Because in the cave, there's no food. You have to come out to find something to eat. And whenever they come out, they are already captured. So our ancestors said, no, what can we do in order for us to see if it was safer to surround their caves? And the plant was used as a secret motion sensor. And the plant tells them to come out and how to stay out. When they're coming out, the plant speaks first. Before they come out, is the plant. So this is how it spoke to our ancestors. Touch it. Yes, touch it. Take your hand off. What do you see?
Oh.
You saw something?
It folds in.
You didn't see anything? Oh.
It folds in.
You saw it? You can touch it yourself. Just slap it. The simple one is color. This color is your man. Now, or we are on sign, I don't know.
Yeah, it folds in. Somebody was there.
Yes, so whenever they are coming out, this needs to tell them we are coming out. So if it's fully open, and they know there's no movement around your feet, which means they can come out and whatever they are doing. But if they are coming in a plant of kindness, but everywhere it has been planted, then they know there has been a movement around their feet. This same plant played a role in the US of A, the same role in Jamaica in the mangroves. So when I read about this plant, you know what I told myself? I told myself, if you want to have the meaning of intelligence in the dictionary, just put our ancestors there. This simple as I have changed the name. It's now Destiny Plant than the Mimosa, because this can never be a drink. Let's make a short walk. Then change your name. I don't know why we made this journey, and I don't even want to know. Sometimes thousands of your ancestors walk this path. And I need a ladder to get it. Could not wash it back. So what can they do to scrape all the dirt from them? That was when they used the bamboo leaves. The bamboo leaves was used in order to take. They will sell you to the Dutch. They will sell you to the Portuguese. They will sell you to the British. Which means they believe that there's no way you would ever cross after selling us from here. This was where they were branded before taking it to branding. But I don't know if you've listened to many Negro spirituals. You can see that whenever they sing, they always sing about rivers. The reason being that they believe they left something in the river for us. And I don't know what yours is. That is why we are coming in here to reverse the journey, to tell the world it can never be our last battle. But I'll connect to my ancestor as my first battle. This is where I'm going to walk you down to the river. When we get to the river, just have a place, just stand it, and just tell them you're back home. And I'll tell you something I'm going to do real brief before we all leave.